Good morning. I want to talk some more about what I've learned from these past several weeks with a bout of arthritis that has left me deeply inspired and more in the mystery of life as I explore the noble truths of life. First being that life is difficult, and yes, we suffer to the degree to which we attach to our thoughts, to our thinking that we have the answer, when in fact life is just so much more complicated than we'll ever know. And the fun part is just to keep taking it deeper and deeper with a flexible, exploratory mind. So if we look at life as being pain, or challenging, or restless, what do we do with that? Are we soft, flexible, patient, and willing to explore to the extent that we can wake up to the universal truths that everything is interconnected and life is change, constant change, even though we're trying to continually say that we can somehow stop it or keep things from changing when we like them. So, in my earlier life, I was a speech pathologist, and I came into that field while some of the great leaders that actually founded it were still alive. Two of these were men who wanted to go deeper in understanding their difficulties with fluency, commonly called stuttering. One of them was Wendell Johnson, and he came up with a theory that was very good. He called it the anticipatory struggle reaction. So if you are afraid that something is not going to work out and you put it out there, you will create almost like a self-fulfilling fantasy that, yes, things won't be that way, which is quite opposed to what the ancient notion of prayer is, where you have such confidence in what's going to happen that you actually have the feeling of it happening before it's happened. So we're always looking for cures, right? We think that somehow we can stop this thing that is happening that we don't want to be happening, when in fact really what we want to do is just get to know it better and see that it passes moment to moment, changes moment to moment, and the more we explore, the more we see that nothing ever stays the same. So Charles Van Riper came up with an acronym called MIDVAS, and that's been very helpful for me, because as I look at things that I want to change, I have to say, well, MIDVAS stands for, well, the first one is the M in MIDVAS, it's motivation. Am I really motivated to change? When this first started happening to me in mid-December, the first orthopedist said, well, if you lose weight, that can help with your arthritis. So I listened to that, and I went to each of the specialists that I've seen, and I've said, well, I have the feeling that they're saying exactly what I need to hear. I have the feeling that I'm getting to know this just as I'm supposed to get to know this within the time frame of which I'm supposed to get to know it. So since that time, I've dropped sometimes almost 30 pounds in weight and noticed a tremendous difference. I was very motivated. The second letter in MIDVAS is identify. I had to identify what was it that I was doing that allowed me to get up to 195 pounds. Well, I wasn't being conscious in my eating, and I was placing the thought of having these pleasurable foods in my digesting and tasting in the evening, usually is when I had this trouble. And I identified that chocolate, ice cream, and beer were three things that I would put in my mind and give them attention once it became, say, 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock. So I made a New Year's resolution to just put those out of my experience, so that now in the evening, it's just like it's not even, it takes no time, no space. The thought is not there. So that has probably contributed as much as anything, identifying that. The third letter is to desensitize, so that I have to come to the fact that I can talk about this. I can talk about my weight and not take things personally. I can look at what's happening to my body and my aging and not take it personally. So as people talk, I can hear what they're saying without wanting to fight back or react. Now, the next thing is to vary. How do I vary my life so that I can really follow through and have this feeling of having completed a healing or a wholeness? And that tied into changing my environment, being active, looking at those things that are working. So it's really varying my life from putting bad food in to good food. So good food for me is doing what I can to get decent rest, taking the medications I need, but always trying to minimize them and take them down when I can, doing the exercises that work and minimizing the exercises that don't, identifying the environments that work and the environments that don't, and varying to see what seems to work and what doesn't. In this case, juicing has been very good for me. Bikram yoga with the heat and the fixed postures has been fantastic. So I've been doing Bikram yoga almost daily and noticing very clearly how I've been able to go deeper and deeper into my postures. Entering into hot water has been fantastic when my joints have been all seized up. It seems to warm them, lubricate them, and I come out feeling much better. So there have been certain things that I can do in my environment where I vary things to always hold that feeling of full. Because when we're challenged with situations of constant pain, we're tending to put our energy to wanting to get rid of it rather than to say, well, how does this affect it? What does this do? So I'm motivated to heal. I identify those things I'm doing which are hurting me. I'm varying my environment and those things in my life so that I can put more emphasis on what's working and good food. And then I can start approximating, getting closer to what I want to do. And that gives me that flexibility and that openness. And then I start getting into the stability of a program, the final letter in the acronym of MIDVAS. So MIDVAS is, am I motivated to wake up? Am I motivated to do those things that are conscious, that allow me to change? Now, if I'm truly motivated, I'm going to identify all those things I do to self-sabotage, to destruct, all those things I do that are not helpful, all those things I do that tend to create notions of not enough, of separating, of throwing out a negative vibration, and then just really doing everything I can to feed a feeling of fullness, to feed a feeling of connection, interconnection, and then to desensitize to all the things that come my way that may not be what I thought they should be, and just look at them and say, oh, interesting, this too is gift. So to desensitize, and then to vary my behavior, to experiment, to be curious, to explore and see what works and what doesn't work, to approximate the behaviors that work so that I'm getting closer and closer, and then to stabilize and know that there are no cures, nothing stops, it's just everything changes. So many times we get carried up with the notion of cure, which is to end, and rather than healing, which is to just to settle back into this notion that we always are connected, we're never alone. So it's an exercise in spirituality and mind-body connection, something that we don't fully put into our healing process. So I've totally enjoyed going to orthopedists and knowing they're saying exactly what I'm supposed to hear, to physical therapists, to acupressurists, acupuncturists, to trainers, and listening and just seeing what works and what doesn't. And knowing that with this, the momentum is there. Each day I'm getting better and better and better. Each day I'm cultivating this sense of joy and peace, feeling that this moment is what counts, which brings us right back to the notion of our lives. Am I happy to be here, or am I filling my mind with restlessness about wanting to be back someplace else, or hoping that someday I'll be over here, when over there? So it's not a question of I'll be happy if, it's a question of I'm happy. I'm happy here, now, witnessing this motion, this experience, this body here, now, this opportunity to be, and which brings us to the greatest healing product of all, which is gratitude. I'm so happy to have the opportunity to be here. This moment, this next arising moment is filled with joy. So am I cultivating and growing a feeling of fullness, or am I growing emptiness? Am I growing peace and joy, or am I growing restlessness, fear? Am I feeding into my wheels of fear, greed, and ignorance to the interconnection? Or am I watering the seeds of joy, knowing that I'm never alone? This moment is complete and full.